Okay, how do you get yourself to act when you know you've been holding yourself back? Procrastination, blocking, perhaps it's imposter syndrome you think you've got, or an excessive fear of failing or of loss or of being judged. The normal things that so many people have a problem with. But you know that you're capable of doing more. You have got things that you've missed out on. Perhaps it's income, salary, lifestyle, opportunities, jobs, starting a business, whatever it is you should have done and you could have done. So how do you break the pattern of holding yourself back, of procrastinating, blocking, whatever you want to call it? And most people will tell you to set a big goal. Set a big goal which is going to motivate you so much that you will take action. But actually, that's usually the worst thing you can do. And when I explain this to people, it sounds a bit counterintuitive, but when you think it through, it's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense, really. And the reason we hold ourselves back and we get in our own way is, like I said, usually it's an excessive fear. Now, fear of loss, for example, is a good thing, because if you're fearing loss in a reasonable way, it helps you make better decisions so you don't do the wrong thing. It's actually part of how you make a good decision. But if you excessively do it, like any other fear or a lack of belief in yourself, self-doubt to an excessive level, rather than getting the good parts of self-doubt, and self-doubt is good and it helps you make better decisions and gets better results if you use it in the right way. But excessively, it stops you from taking opportunities, it stops you from doing what you can do, which creates regret. Now, if you're looking back in your life and just looking back with regret, that's not fun. That's just misery. But the sort of regret I in this video I'm going to ask you to think about is, how frustrated are you by what you have not done? And if you look into the future and you think, I'm going to keep doing this if I don't change my thinking, that's when you harness the power of regret to say, enough. I've got to do something about this. And that's what most of my clients come with. That's the reason why they come. They've missed out too many opportunities. They haven't got the income they should be having. They're not running their business, or even running their first business if that's what they want, or running it in a way that actually allows them perhaps to delegate and take time off. Whatever the reason is, they're missing out on something. And when you harness that power of regret to the point of frustration or anger, well, I've had enough, that's when they usually get in touch. And that's the good thing. Because if you're setting a goal to try and push you through, as most people tell you to, that goal actually increases, usually, the fear of whatever you're feeling. So fear of loss. I'm going for this big goal. I've got to commit. Yeah, but I can make it worse now by going for this goal. Or I could go for this goal and then I don't get it. And how stupid would I feel? How embarrassed would I be? So actually, setting a big goal can make the conflict in your head, the argument, the battle in your head, even bigger. So the best way around this is actually not to set the goal. If you've been trying to set goals, and so many of my clients, and there's one person in particular, it was a shame, but it almost became a running joke between us for possibly even 5 years. Same time every year, pretty much, because there was a significant date, they contacted me and asked about working together, and then they would do nothing about it. They really, really wanted to start their own business, but they did nothing about it. And then the following year, same conversations. It's the same thing. I knew what they needed to do. They knew what they needed to do. We needed to find out why they had a tremendous fear of loss. But this tremendous fear of loss was so frightening, so painful, that they didn't have a bigger motivator to overcome it enough just to start the work to turn this fear of loss off, to fix it. So they knew what they needed to do, and they had regret. But it wasn't until a year and a half ago when they contacted me and said, I'm done. I've just blown something huge. I've missed out on something massive. And that's when they phoned me up. And then it only took a few weeks, as usual, just to get to grips with this fear of loss and turn it off and fix that, so they could then move on and they started their business. But it took a huge, painful regret for them to tip the balance and say enough's enough. And I don't recommend that, because that's a very painful way to do it. But sometimes that's what we need to do. Sometimes we just need to look at, what have I missed out on? What have I lost? What's the opportunities? What's the money? What's the status? What's the satisfaction, the pride? What job have I missed out on? Where should I be compared to where I am now? And it's not fun. It's not pleasant. But I wish that person, that client, had done it 2 or 3 years before. As they said, wish I'd done this before, because I would never have missed out on this really huge thing that finally tipped them over the edge. So think of it like a painful weighing scales. The fear of loss is very powerful, and the human brain is very much biased to making sure things don't go wrong. But to get going on fixing it, what you need is a bigger fear and the regret. This is where regret comes in. This is what I've lost already, and if I carry on, what am I really, really going to mess up on? And that's when the weighing scales go, and that's when they phone me up. We get going, and then the actual excessive fear of loss that in this case was getting in their way, fixed in a couple of weeks. So it's not a big motivator of a goal that usually does it, unfortunately. So that's my recommendation. If you're so frustrated but you won't take action, you have big imposter syndrome, big fear of loss, big fear of judgment, big fear of, or even you don't even know why you're doing it really, because sometimes people don't, and we dig into that and we find that very quickly. But you just know you're getting in your own way, you're procrastinating like mad, huge self-doubt, whatever it happens to be. Perhaps the best way of looking at it is just really get annoyed at how much you've lost and how much you will lose, enough for you to take that first step. I do not recommend you live like this. It's not good. But it's just to take that first step and harness the power of regret and fearing what else you would regret. It's no good if you do this and you don't take action. But it's probably the most common reason why people finally pick up the phone. And the longest it's ever been, this person was, I think, 4 or 5 years. The longest it's ever been was 12 years with one person. 12 years from original first conversation. And then it took less than 2 months for them to change their job, start their business, and they're very happy moving on. But it was 12 years as the record, I think, from the first time talking to somebody, which is a real shame. That's a lot of regret. And as I said, and most people say, it's a universal statement, pretty much. If you can have a universal, pretty much statement. I wish I'd done this years ago. So I hope you do, and I hope this has been useful to you. It's not pleasant, it's not comfortable, but it's better than long-term regret and doing nothing about it. Hope to speak to you soon. If you're getting in your own way, this is what we're really good at. We can get you out of trouble really quick, but you have to push yourself over that tipping point so we can just have a conversation and we can show you actually how easy it is to get rid of your imposter syndrome or excessive fear or whatever it happens to be. Anyway, thanks for your time. Hope it's been useful, and yeah, give us a call if you've finally had enough. Take care.